NewsHour Weekend Special Correspondent Ryan Chilcote has more on today's protests and the growing popularity of Mr. Navalny.
Aleksei Navalny appears to be increasingly popular. Witness the fact that tens of thousands of people turned out at these protests, more than 2,000 of them arrested in dozens of Russian cities right across the expanse of the country. When Navalny arrived from Germany a little over a week ago, his team released a video in which he alleged that President Putin has a palace that is valued at $1 billion that was built on bribes. Now, the Kremlin has denied this allegation, but this video has been watched by more than 71 million people. That suggests that Mr. Navalny is getting increasingly popular. I profiled him twice, first in 2011 when he was basically an activist investor investigating corruption in state companies, and then again in 2017 when he was trying to run for president. He was actually barred from being on the ballot. And in 2011, he was almost unknown. 2017, popular, but mostly amongst the youth. That appears to be changing. Now, where does this go? Well, Mr. Navalny is well known, but perhaps not universally loved. In fact, one pollster says his approval rating is around 15 to 17%. Nevertheless, he can discredit the Kremlin with his allegations of corruption, his movement that he's begun. And so it is likely that these protests will continue because it's likely that Aleksei Navalny will remain in jail. And here's the key thing to keep in mind. In September, Russia's going to have a very important parliamentary election for the State Duma. There is a school of thought that if the Kremlin wants to, they will keep him in jail until at least after that election in September, and perhaps for years and years beyond that, simply to solve this political problem.
All right, fam. I've got this over here queued up. This is from Mango Press. If you're not subbed to Mango Press, I would suggest you go sub them. They only have 487 subscribers, which is a tragedy. I do believe comrades from Critical Thought Critique, P4P Indiana, brought them to the P4P fam's attention recently. Pretty sure that's where I first heard of them. But they put this up today, and the video is called, Who is Aleksei Navalny? So this is the dude that all these people are in the streets in Russia over, right? And they're railing against Putin, and there's all kinds of conflicting stories about violence from either demonstrators or cops or both or whatever. But it's all in defense of this Navalny character. Now, I understand the Putin administration and to be capitalist, and therefore I'm not like all into that shit. So I have been sort of reserving my opinions and thoughts on this till I learned more. Just felt something was amiss and awry. And just because they're railing against a capitalist state that I am not too particularly fond of, doesn't always mean that they should be considered friends or allies, let alone fucking comrades. So this, I have it queued up to like 2350, because what they do in the video, which is really, really useful, we don't have time to do it for the What the Fuck Report today, but they give a very long, excellent overview of sort of a history of Russia since the fall of the Soviets and what life has been like for actual working class people, for the actual proletariat in Russia, now that it's a capitalist country, right? Now that it has a full-on capitalist economy, and which provides good context to show how the party that this Navalny character could rise out of. And I should probably just save all spoilers. Spoiler alert, he's a fucking far-right nationalist Nazi piece of shit. Okay? But these folks over at Mango Press did some really good homework. You don't necessarily have to trust me or them. They provide the receipts, and they did a really good job of this. I watched this segment of it earlier, and I found it very informative, and I appreciated how well they sourced their material. So let's do it.
Who is Navalny? Where's he come from? What is he? And just, sum up who he is.
I guess, yeah. The very first thing to say about Navalny is that he got into politics very early on. I mean, he's been around in the Russian political scene in one capacity or another since early 2005, 2006. His rise to prominence, though, was only really towards the late 2000s, so around 2010, 11, with his work on exposing corruption, how he initially gained his popularity, and his participation and encouragement of the Bolotnaya protests in 2011 in Moscow, following the re-election of Vladimir Putin after Medvedev's term. But really, at his heart, even though he does, and to give him credit, he does do valuable work in the investigative journalism that he's done. Certainly, it's helped expose some issues. However, that's not to say that his political views are anywhere near remotely viable, acceptable, or even close to what the Western media is portraying them as. And again, this is what I was going to say. Really, I wanted to use this opportunity to dispel a few myths around Navalny, where people say that he is the leader of the opposition in Russia, or the main opposition to Vladimir Putin. Again, this is not the case. Even if you go off of election numbers, and again,
welcome, Rad. Good to see
you. Come up with their excuse.
See your name in the chat.
That, the elections are rigged, or they're not fair. Fine, then let's take the independent polling numbers. Even if you take those, he is lower down on the list than other politicians like Zhuganov, the leader of KPRF, or Zhirinovsky, the leader of LDPR. And really, just in no metric can you describe Navalny as being the leader of the opposition. Not even in an official capacity, and certainly not in an unofficial capacity.
Right, okay.
The second thing I guess I wanted to dispel about Navalny is that he's not a liberal. This is the favorite, I guess, quote, and the favorite thing about the Western press to write about Navalny is that he's standing up for democratic ideals in the face of autocratic rule. This is just so untrue. And it's just a narrative that just is so conveniently fitting in with what the State Department's narrative is and what the US wants people to think about Russia. Because again, it's the state of the new Cold War that we're in. Because really, Navalny is the furthest thing from a liberal you can ever find. And I mean, we'll look at this with all the tweets and the stuff that we're going to see come up here. Again, it'd probably be best.
So I think that's interesting. The Liberal Democratic Party, and they just said that that's far right. That's, one of the things that we get so mixed up here in the U.S. is our understanding of the left-right fucking paradigm, the Overton window. We have such a fucking all over the place sort of understanding of it. When I read old anarchists and I read the original communists and that kind of stuff, I hear them often talk about Republicans, and they're not talking about like Mitch McConnell and fucking Ted Cruz. They're talking about people who support representative forms of government, Republicans, right? And fascists clearly always appropriate the terminology of the left. So to be a liberal Democrat, again, even if you were not some cultural appropriating or politically appropriating far-right fascists like people from this Liberal Democratic Party, even an actual liberal party to this day should be seen as, at best, centrist. Liberalism is center. It's all about, sure, they're okay with a lot of civil rights stuff, and they generally not like embracing racism and shit. But it's also all about allowing capitalism to flourish and thinking that you can like put restrictions on it and make compromises with it. That's what liberalism is. So it can be very conservative, and it can be very easily a home for far-right people. So I just found that something I thought maybe I should highlight and kind of explain, point out a little bit that like, we have to be so much more careful. U.S. Western understanding of what liberal means, what centrist party, what parties in Europe, we hear, oh, well, then liberal Democrats, they must be like what, the Joe Biden party. No, they're even to the right of that, right? And it's also, I think, for the most part, European countries, not all of them, there's of course blaring examples to the contrary of this example, but there's a better grasp on what these sort of political terms actually traditionally specifically mean. Like there's actual real definitions for liberal and for socialist and for, you know, communist and anarchist and fascist. Like all these things have specific definitions. And generally, the parties in Europe tend to reflect, their policies and their platforms tend to reflect what they designate themselves as, right? Where in America, we're just, you know, whatever. It's so all over the place. And we think that centrist liberals are extreme leftists, and you got Newsmax and fucking, you know, Fox News painting centrist, if not leaning right liberals as extreme left radicals. And it just confuses the broader populace's understanding of what these left-right paradigms are. And just to be really clear, the Overton window is thus: far right is deep-throated, full-on defense of capitalist imperialist status quo. Far left is a deep-throated advocation for the elimination of capitalism. And liberalism or centrism is about, I don't like to call it a compromise between the two, because it's not a compromise with the left. It's actually just a compromise with the right. It allows capitalism. You can't, if our project on the left is completely ending capitalism, there's no compromise to that. The compromise is to end capitalism, and then we'll talk. Okay, so it's all a compromise, a center compromise with the right. You know, it's such a long-winded explanation, but anyway.
If you bring up the video.
Okay, let me get that up.
Because
this video is so disgusting.
Used to be part of Yabloko, which was the liberal opposition party in Russia. However, he was kicked out of that because he was far too extremely right-wing, even for Yabloko. He was too far right to be a liberal, and they kicked him. He was literally expelled from the party because of that. And then he created his own populist, nationalist opposition platform called Narod. And you can see some of the things that he talked about and produced here.
Okay, so this is a Narod video, right? Okay, Narod means populist, right? When you say that word, it means people, right?
Yeah, Narod means people.
Yeah, so this to me sounds like this is like Bolshevik history when you're talking about the Narodniks and stuff like that. You know, it's a similar sort of movement, right? A populist one that is trying to jump on.
This is about as far from the Bolshevik movement as
no, not the Bolsheviks, the Narodniks who were around before the Bolsheviks, right? The popularists that failed at trying to win over the Russian people. It was the Bolsheviks who came after them, right?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But this is, I would say, even more close to. I wouldn't even draw any comparisons to any historical parties. I would draw, I guess, modern comparisons in the sense that this is a party that is like.
This is important. Listen up.
The Law and Justice Party in Turkey, the AKP, or the PIS Party in Poland.
Mm-hmm. Or UKIP in the UK.
Or UKIP.
Or UKIP in the UK. It's very much a intense nationalist reactionary party.
Okay, so
and I would say, you know, we don't have a party equivalent to this in the US, but it looks like there's about to be this Patriot Party that all the MAGA and all these fucking QAnon pieces of shit and everybody are talking about. If this comes to fruition, it would be the US equivalent of this.
Okay. Far more so than Yedinaya Rossiya is, because it really doesn't come anywhere close to that.
Okay, let's play this video. We tweeted this out the other week, and this is a video that got subtitled in English. This video is notorious in Russia, right? This is a pretty famous video of him, isn't it?
This is very famous about Navalny, because again, it really highlights what his views are.
Okay, let's just play this quick, and then we'll talk after. It's only like 40 seconds long, so let's just play this, and then we'll talk.
Здравствуйте. Сегодня
hello, today we talk about insect control. No house is safe from cockroach infestation. Ew, or a fly gets in through an open window. We all know the cure against flies: fly swatter, a slipper against a roach. But what do you do if cockroaches are too big and flies too aggressive? In such cases, I recommend a handgun.
Right. Okay. So if you didn't catch what was going on in that video, I'll try and skip it along. There we go. This character here, he's meant to be a Muslim, right?
Yeah, so this is his a big advert for gun not gun control, quite the opposite. So basically, it's ensuring that every Russian has a gun, and he essentially says, what happens if somebody enters your home? He uses the words cockroaches and flies, which is ironic because in another video he refers to Muslims and to Chechens, and again, actually, as you can see in that still over there, which kind of people does he have pulled up there? It's the Chechens. This is the kind of person.
Did you catch that, fam? He's got. He ends his video with shooting a person, in full headscarf and all that stuff, while he's got a video of Chechens. This guy's deeply, deeply down for fucking racist genocide. Just remember that when you hear people in the West, like Western media outlets and stuff, praising or making apologies for protesters that are backing Navalny in Russia.
He just literally believes that the best cure for those... firstly, the fact that he uses that kind of language to refer to people, to migrants from the Caucasus or to migrants from Central Asia is utterly disgusting in its own right. But the very fact later on that he also says that they need to be wiped out using handguns. It's just patently absurd. In England, in America, in any other country apart from Russia, if a political figure said this, doesn't matter if it was 10 years ago, they would be utterly crucified by the press. But because Navalny he's paid for by Western interests and he supports Western market interests, he gets a free pass. In no other country would this be the case. Because again, Russia is this official state-designated enemy. And therefore, the Western line the Western media toe the Western line and the Western state line, and he gets a free pass for all of his disgusting political views.
Yeah, because they don't expect that Westerners, in the current state of the West and the way that people are overworked in the West, they don't expect people to dig a little bit deeper than what they put out about him. So that's why we're showing this right now. We've got to make sure people understand who they're putting their weight behind on and who's telling them to put their weight behind them. So yeah, let's carry on.
And again. Yeah, I was just going to say, so for people talking about how, that was in 2007, 2008, it was a youthful political folly, it was his youthful naivety talking, he didn't know what he was doing. Absolutely not true. Categorically not true, and you can see that because in the Der Spiegel interview there, which a screenshot of which you can see in that tweet, you can see that when he's asked about whether, his political views have changed, he says absolutely not. He has the same political views as he had going into politics. Maybe he's more careful with what he says, but the key thing is these views that he has, these completely despicable, xenophobic and racist views that he has, haven't changed. And he's not only not denying them, he's also in a way proud of them because he refuses to condemn it.
Exactly.
Condemn what he said before.
Mm-hmm. Which is what the Western politician would be doing. He'd be denying it until he was blue in the face, right? So. Not quite up there right away. Because
they know that they would rightfully be condemned by the press for doing this and they'd be crucified by the public at large. But again, because, as Fran said, you're not really expected to dig beyond the surface level of news stories that you're fed. If it isn't immediately obvious,
I second that,
and if no Western media is reporting it, then it must clearly, in the minds of the average Western news media reader, it must have never happened. Mm-hmm. And this is the real problem.
I have the same views that I held when I went into politics, and that's straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, you can bring up some of the other ones as well. We had the interview with The Guardian in 2017 that he had, where, again, the interviewer there was pressing him to try and renounce his views or condemn them, again, hoping to create some sort of redemption story for Navalny. But no, he refuses to. And he says, we're comparing migrants to cockroaches, he says that was artistic license. He doesn't even apologize for his use of the language.
So there's nothing at all from those videos or period that you regret? No. The brazenness of this guy.
He's an unrepentant, xenophobic, racist man. And this is who he is. This is who the Western media supports. This is who is the Western political darling in Russia.
And this is only from 2017, right? This is not like 1980 when he was still ignorant and trying to show off. This is literally from 3 years ago. So like Simeon said at the start, he's been in politics since, 2004? So from 2004 up to 2017, he's been nothing but a racist. Why are we to assume that now he's had some sort of moment in clarity and isn't one? Come off it. And the third thing you wanted to show about this? Was this one?
Yeah, so this was just an interesting picture. I'm sure. I think I do. I'm not sure if Mango Press tweeted something about this before, but
yeah, we did. We tweeted this side by
fucking...
side with the American version of him.
Yeah, so this is who you're...
These are the kinds of people that you have turning up at the protests.
Your people following...
I wouldn't even call them protests more than...
This fucking Aleksei Navalny, or whatever the fuck his name is.
In some
Navalny.
cases, it even spilled over and escalated into
They're over there emulating that fucking fascist piece of shit with the Nazi triangles and the Thor hammer. You know, no diss to my fucking righteous pagan comrades and shit. Like, there's people who are leftists who wear the Thor's hammer and shit, and I got respect. But when you got the huge Thor's hammer tattooed across that triple triangle fucking Aryan nation fucking bullshit.
Here it is. So, yeah.
Because you got horns on. I mean,
I guess
these fucking people of shit are emulating, right?
For quite a while, attended an annual march in Russia called Ruski March. And this is like, essentially, think of the collection of the most radical nationalists.
Okay, well, that's the picture that we've got on the thumbnail, right?
Yes, that would be them.
Okay,
so the most radical collection of Russian nationalists, and even in many cases neo-Nazis, that would gather every year and march together. And Navalny, again, as part of his work in Narod and part of his, I guess, political outlook at the time, and still is, he would march along with them, and he would attend this march every single year.
Straight up, no Nazis in Valhalla.
One of the people that also attended this march was a man named Ilya Garyachuk. And now this guy was the one who, as you can see in the BBC article, was arrested and imprisoned for at least 26 years, for life, over the murder of two very famous anti-fascists in Russia, Markelov and Baburova. And
so he's aligned with this dude who's best known for murdering two anti-fascists.
Navalny, the guy who's being exalted in Western press, the guy who Western leaders like Joe Biden and Boris Johnson are standing firmly behind and demanding the release. This man marched along side by side with a person who was convicted for life for the politically charged murders of two anti-fascist activists, precisely because they're anti-fac.
And it gets deeper, right? Okay, so this was another one that you wanted to bring up. He's an anti-Semite as well.
Yes, really, again, the Navalny, when he was running for Moscow mayor, he had an interview with, I believe it was either a dinner or an interview with, where is it? The New York Times. So it was a party celebrating the anniversary of the New York Times, the 37th. Celebrating the anniversary of the New York Times. He literally said to make a toast, the first toast should be made in honor of the Holocaust. And he refers to constantly, he uses derogatory language towards Jews in general. But in his blog, he refers to the religious Jews as, quote, dandies in fox hat and rags. And stated that, quote, whoever wants to live in Russia has to become Russian, in the full sense of the word.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
the dog whistle is right there in that sentence.
Where have we seen this language? You know, the fact that Jews can't be Russians? I am Jewish, and I am a Russian as well. I'm proud of both.
Yeah.
That wouldn't surprise me at all,
again,
Rad.
The very fact that you have Navalny here saying these things, and Western leaders, which I guarantee you full well know of these facts and these views.
Well, this is a New York Times dinner, right? So this is him rubbing shoulders with the Western elite at their dinner parties.
Yes,
they know full well because he's giving a toast at their dinner parties and saying and dropping these dog whistles in. And this is the same stuff like you said earlier. Comparing this to like UKIP and Marine Le Pen and all these right wing populist movements. Do they not say stuff like, if you want to live in France, you have to become French. If you want to live in Britain, you must become British and learn the British language. All these Nazi dog whistles that go in. We're seeing the same here, right? It's
literally it's not only the case that there has to be some level of assimilation into the local culture. No, it's literally saying that if you have your own religion and you incorporate any semblance of your own culture into your life in another country, you therefore do not automatically disqualify as a citizen of that country and should be expelled. I mean, this is
Vladimir fucking pushing people out of the way. Oh, hell no. I'm taking this motherfucker out myself.
Here's Navalny saying these things and getting an absolute free pass.
Okay, Alex,
look out, Leo.
Aleksei
Look out.
Navalny
Look out.
Insists on taking
What
part
does
in the
motherfucker
Nationalist
say?
Wow.
Crush capitalism.
Has incited the skinheads in the march.
Where's Lenin when you need him?
On immigrants and foreigners in the country. He declared, "This is our country, and it's our duty to eliminate all the crooks who suck our blood. All immigrants are like dental cavities, destroying the Russian public. There is no need to hit anyone. Whoever is in our way, we will deport by a strong hand. There is need for full cleansing / disinfection. That's a Navalny quote, right? That's a nationalist mark.
Again, this is like really, it makes me wonder, like the whole time when I was reading this and when we're talking now, I just really think that maybe, Russian media should start taking a page out of the Western media's playbook and referring to Tommy Robinson as the leader of the English opposition. I mean, just how absurd is it that somebody with such a low popularity, such obscure and disgusting views can be touted by Western leaders as the leader?
And that's I may have talked over it, laughing at Rad's joke, but the next party, the party with the largest opposition party to the status quo in power party is communism. I believe he said 10 to 15% of parliament, which is not a great presence, but still, that is the leading opposition party to Putin, according to the folks at Mango Press. And this guy, Navalny's party, isn't even on the radar. It doesn't even register. They have zero presence in government. But I am going to leave it there, and I'm going to encourage y'all, fam, to go and give a sub to Mango Press. They've only got 487. That's tragic, because they really do good work. This is the second thing I've checked out from them, and both of them have been really, really well researched and super informative. And I think if you want to find out more, it's well worth going over there and giving them the actual, traffic numbers and stuff, and giving some love. So, but yeah, you know what I got queued up over here? I still have that flip book art that we were watching earlier, so I'm going to move back over there. But I also got this sick ass Born Against record, fam.
Hello, shit. We're born against, so suck my fucking lizard.
And I believe I'm going to play 2, maybe even 3 tracks. This is so fucking good. This is the album The Rebel Sound of Shit and Failure from Vermiform Records. This is Neil. That's some of this shit.